The Office is easily one of my favorite TV shows. I'll never forget the time I binged the entire series in a span of 3 weeks. I had no life that winter break. Because it's my favorite show, I thought I would go in depth to see why me and countless others enjoy this classic comedy. I'm not going to look at specific episodes because that would take way too long. Instead, I'm going to look at the show as a whole in general. I believe the best way to do this is to break up the show into categories and talk about each of those individually. Those categories are going to be a basic summary of the show, the characters, the actors/performances, the concept/presentation, and random stuff that doesn't fit into a category, and the conclusion. First, let's sum up the series. The Office was an NBC mockumentary-style TV show that aired from 2005 to 2013. It was based off an English show of the same name. The Office revolves around the people that work at Dunder Mifflin Paper Company in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about the characters. The Office mainly focuses on the branch's manager, Michael Scott, played by Steve Carell, an ignorant, childish, but lovable teddy bear who only wants to make his employees/his work family happy. Other than Michael, the show revolves around Jim Halpert, played by John Krasinski, a tall, relatable salesman who doesn't really care about his job, Dwight Schrute, played by Rainn Wilson, a controlling, borderline, psychotic, but likable salesman who cares way too much about his job, and Pam Beesly, played by Jenna Fischer, a timid, art-loving receptionist trying to pursue her dreams. The show also has an extremely strong cast of secondary characters like Andy Bernard, Oscar Martinez, Kevin Malone, Kelly Kapoor, and so many more. These characters work so well together in a sense that once the show is over, it feels like you were hanging out with your best friends the whole time rather than watching a TV show. In the first couple seasons, the characters feel so real to the point where they could actually be real people. And as the show goes on, they slowly turn into more cartoonish characters that would never really exist in the real world. Some look at that as a bad thing, some look at it as a good thing. For me, I could argue either way. So we've talked about the characters, now it's only fitting that we talk about the actors that play these roles. I feel like it would be a disservice if I don't start off with stating how perfect Steve Carell is as Michael Scott. He was basically a nobody at the time that The Office started, and it's a good thing they didn't go with a big name, because I can't imagine any other person that could pull off this role. Steve is just the right amount of stupid and caring to make this part work without everybody hating him. On top of that, the chemistry between Jenna Fischer and John Krasinski is really something else. During interviews, they both stated that when they got the call telling them that they would be on the show, they immediately asked if the other one got in as well. Also, hats off to Rainn Wilson for somehow making Dwight Schrute, of all people, so likable to the point where you can start to relate to him and all of his psychotic tendencies. As for the secondary cast, they are just as strong, if not stronger. People like Ed Helms and Mindy Kaling really steal the spotlight in the scenes that they're in. Okay, those were long ones, so now let's talk about the concept and presentation of the show. I know this is an unpopular opinion among some, but I absolutely love the mockumentary style of show. It makes the whole thing feel so immersive, like I'm watching a real documentary. On top of that, I love the short interviews that pop up in the middle of a scene to explain what a certain character is thinking and how they feel. I think it's really smart instead of using narration or something like that, or not using anything at all. I also love the fact that the show accepts that it's a mockumentary to the point where it's an entire plot point that a documentary is being filmed about the characters in this world. And it's not just the interviews that make it feel real. Even little things, like instead of doing shot reverse shot at all times, you can actually see the camera moving from character to character. And also when characters are moving, the camera has to follow, you see the camera shaking. It's stuff like that that shows that the creators really cared about making a show as authentic as possible, and it really pays off. Okay, now it's time for the fun one. Random stuff about The Office that I wanted to talk about but doesn't really fit into a category. First, I want to mention that a lot of people think that the show quote-unquote died after the episode where Michael left the company/show. And this really can't be farther from the truth. While it's true that The Office lost its main character and that did affect the show, I don't think necessarily in a bad way. Michael leaving gave characters like Andy the time that they desperately needed in the spotlight. Another thing that I really liked about The Office was that there were some episodes that were connected, like when half of The Office went to Florida, instead of having each episode be its own thing. I think it's a nice change of pace that the show really needs from time to time. I also wanted to say that The Office is at its funniest when the comedy revolves around an awkward situation and it's hard to watch. In conclusion, The Office is my favorite TV show because the concept and the way it's presented is completely unique, the characters feel astonishingly real because of the outstanding performances done by the perfect cast, and the humor is one of a kind. I honestly can't think of any flaws about this show, and because of these things, it's an easy 10 out of 10.